Hi, good evening, and welcome yet again to another week of the Minority Report. My name is Marlon David, and I'm your host this evening on the program. Let me first take this opportunity to apologize for our late start. We had a number of things trying to deal with, but nonetheless, we are on the way. And this evening, we have quite a packed program for you. However, before we get into it, I want to indicate that you're viewing this program on the Tobago Updates Facebook page, which is the platform most persons use, but it's also available on the Tobago Updates website, Tobago Updates YouTube channel, and also new to the slate, no pun intended, M&E TV. And we have quite a large viewership now as we've been surfing through the platforms. If also you want to send your comments and your opinions, or you want to highlight issues that you would like for this program to ventilate on your behalf, either as an individual or within your community, you can utilize the WhatsApp number, which is 284-6597. That's 284-6597, and send us your comments, send us your ideas. Definitely we want to hear from you. You can also utilize the Facebook page as you view to also type in some of your comments and so on. This evening we have a packed program, and again for our late start we do apologize, but we're going to take a short break, and when we get back we're going to get right into it. See you shortly.
I'm Roxanne Hepburn, the Managing Director of La Marche Parfait Day Spa. And now guess what? We're in Tobago, and we are so excited to serve Tobago. La Marche Parfait Day Spa Tobago will be open to the public from Monday the 5th. Some of the services that you can access will be infrared body steam, spa parties, body treatments, massages, pedicures, manicures, waxing, carbiation, radio, and lipo slimming and cellulite wrap treatment. We are located at number 1 Main Road, Barrington's Court, Bonaccord Village.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tapago. Your meals, medication, groceries, and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tapago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO, and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tapago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tapago's at your service.
Mamai Lakai Home Services. We specialize in cleaning of carpets and rugs, mattresses, living room and dining room sets, vehicle detailing, cleaning and sanitizing of homes and commercial spaces. We also do landscaping and tree cutting, pressure and power washing, floor care, fumigating and air purifying. You can also call us for professional painting services, babysitting and adult sitting. Call us now 333-4430 at Mamai Lakai Home Services. We take cleaning to another level.
And folks, we're back this evening. I have with me in studio a full complement of the very prolific and powerful team that normally graces the Minority Report. Let me take the opportunity to introduce first of all the Minority Leader, Assemblyman Kelvon Morris. Welcome, sir. Yet another week.
Good evening to all listeners, viewers. Good evening to the distinguished, newly minted PR of the PNM, Brother Lawrence Hislop, and Minority Councillor, looking fresh as usual. I saw her in a gathering last night.
Our time was hard.
What is the name? What is the name of your team, ma'am?
The team is Leaders in Service.
Leaders in Service. I saw her.
Yes, last night there was the launch.
Okay.
And what launch was that?
You may be aware. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Well, the PNM is in internal elections mode, so you have various persons vying for different positions in the leadership for the executive of the PNM. So some would have formed themselves into teams, while others would have decided to go independent. So one team would have launched their campaign last night, and that team was Leaders in Service, and I attended the launch.
So is it that you may be on a slate?
Yes, my name is not for any position contesting at this time. I'm just showing support for our party.
Yes.
At this time.
We encourage all party members, all members of the PNM to get involved in the upcoming internal elections process. You know, this is one of the things that make our party great. Yes. You know, the democracy that resides in the party, and that opportunity where each member gets to select the persons to represent the executive of the party.
Very much so. And well, we have with us Senator, the Honorable Lawrence Hislop.
Good evening.
And as the minority leader would have stated, newly minted PRO, it's official. And must I say, your stint or your term has begun with a spiffy, remarkable, splendiferous. I'm looking for the adjectives that are not in the dictionary. Turn up last night, because not only did you show up as the freshly minted PRO for the Tobago Council of the PNM, but you did a remarkable job in your function as the co-host of that political meeting last night.
Yeah. So we might just really
well, thank you. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Good evening, Minority Councillor, Minority Leader. I want to take this opportunity to say thanks to the Tobago Council, PNM Tobago Council, for reposing that level of confidence in me to carry on the functions of PRO. We want to extend best wishes to our brother Shamari Hector. Speedy recovery. Yes. I know he's been recovering well, and it's only love and good wishes we send to him and for him for a speedy recovery. Last night was a wonderful night.
Really had to.
You know, one thing I recognize is the strength of the PNM. And we are truly a national party. And we take the democracy not only of Trinidad and Tobago seriously, but of the party. So we are at a stage now where persons who are wish to serve have to face the membership and say why you should serve in a position. Even our political leader, who's the Prime Minister, has to stand before the membership and account for his stewardship as leader and ask for their confidence, ask for their vote going forward to another 4 years. So last night was like a political rally. That's the atmosphere that was there. That's to tell you that we're ready and we're in to go. And it shows that the party. People may think that after the loss in Tobago that we can't recover. But the party is strong. the arms and the structure of the party is strong, and we're ready to go. We're ready to go.
Folks, you heard it from the newly minted PRO of the Tobago Council of the PNM, and we know that we're going to hear much more. This is a man of words and performance.
Well, we know for sure who these two persons were.
Let me put a disclaimer.
Is it that your presence there indicated the team that you all were supporting?
I am putting, listen, I support Team PNM. That's what I support.
Like a true PRO.
I support Team PNM. I went and gave of service to the party. And yeah, when it comes to the days for election, I choose who I have the confidence in.
Led to
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I am allowed to do that. It's a democratic process. You know? Marlon, though you are Kelvin, don't try. Yeah, but it's good. It's good.
It's good. It's good.
The other another team.
Yes, I was at the other
I like
team.
how minority
Yes,
council and bring it back.
No, it just shows the strength, the vibrancy of the party at this time, and in particular the number of persons who have decided to put themselves forward to serve.
Yeah.
It just shows the democracy of the party.
Yeah.
What I particularly like, and I found, is the fact that so many young persons who have came forward as well. It shows the level of continuity and succession planning of the party as well, and transition. And it also tells you a story in terms of when you compare how the PNM goes about its internal affairs and how it is structured in relation to the other parties. You understand why the PNM continues to be 65, 66 years going not out, while others have come and gone, because they are just about getting rid of the PNM and not really about providing a sound structure to govern and develop country and island. And and you're seeing it even in this current within 9 months. A party that went into government, you have where the leader has distanced himself from the administration, and he's now even
the one man.
He's more vocal than the minority. In fact, you saw that confession. You saw that clip in the House last Thursday, where he said he had a confession. That the side of the PNM was the side of the truth, and the side of the side he came from was the side of lies.
Wow.
You see, I'm not calling them liars, but that side.
Confession is good.
Yeah, confession is good.
But you see, before we move on with the program, it shows the party, how you operate as an organization. It gives you a clear indicator, gives the public a clear indicator how you will govern.
Correct.
So if you have the structures of the PNM says, listen, there's a right way to do things. There's a structured way to do things, and there's a proper way to do things. And once you can do that as an organization, when it comes to the wider governance of your country or your island, it is supposed to spill over into governance. And that is what you see. Is chalk and cheese. When you do the comparison, is chalk and cheese.
Charity begins at home and ends abroad. If you can't govern your own internal affairs, how could you?
Exactly. Exactly. So I really appreciate the sentiment shared and the fact that we all know that the People's National Movement is in fact alive and well, and this process again is evidence of that. So folks, this evening we're going to kick it off, and we are into our 4th week of still carrying the term, the sellout of the greatest little island on the planet. And it seems as if it is becoming more and more difficult to keep up with the sellout and the different aspects of the sellout, because every time we ventilate an issue, we see something else popping up even before we can effectively complete that ventilation. One of the things that we pride ourselves with on this particular program is that we do not go with hearsay. We always go with, as they say, from the horse's mouth. So I want us to open the program this evening with just a few short clips, because we continue to identify to the general public that elements within this administration, we wouldn't call any names, I don't know if the clips will highlight the persons, continue to have said one thing when they were in the run-up to the elections. And then now that we are seeing them in administration, it's something totally different on the same issue. So I want the director to run the first 2 clips for us, please.
If you're in Tobago, you're not producing any construction material. Every piece of material that you purchase, whether it's from a Tobago hardware or not, is building an economy somewhere else. It's not multiplying here.
Right.
It's not multiplies from that spend, even if you purchase it through a Tobago hardware. It's just the markup they put on. And if you could calculate that as an economist would, when the worker spends that salary, when the businessman reinvests that part of that profit, the economist will tell you that the worker is going to spend on basic necessities first, food, housing, shelter, food, clothing, shelter. And all of that is being produced somewhere else as well. So the economy of Tobago don't benefit from that. When you have a foreign contractor, foreign in this sense, meaning non-Tobago contractor, then the labor, the money you pay in labor, benefits another economy as well. And if it were a non-Tobago contractor, then the management, the money you pay to manage the project, benefits somewhere else as well. So, and so you go along that line, of course the profit is spirited away. So you end up spending $1 billion and the economy doesn't change in Tobago. And that to me is where the problem is. When you have a strategic intent, because by now that is what it is. It is not lack of capacity or anything like that. After 20 years, you can't argue that. When you have a strategic intent to procure construction services outside of Tobago, then your strategic intent is to build another territory. In this case, Trinidad.
Right, folks. I deliberately asked us to take a little pause between the 2 clips to start off. What do you all think about? Is it that you all are in agreement with what the then candidate said?
I have to ask I have to ask the present secretary a question. What is the intent? What is the strategic intent of the administration?
No.
No.
Okay.
Because and I agree with him, because based on what he said, the strategic intent when you give the contract outside of Tobago is to build another economy.
Okay.
And so I agree with him.
Right, okay.
So my question to him is, what is the strategic intent of this present administration?
No.
Is it really to make Tobago the greatest little island in the world or on the planet? Or is it to build another economy? Because that's what he said. If your strategic intent is to build another economy, then you ferret away the profits to another economy.
L1.
No, well, I think that Trevor that we heard there is a Trevor Tobago would have come into office, because clearly at that point he understood the task, which was to ensure that you come and protect the Tobago contractors, because he said, and he was clear, he said they have the capacity after 20 years.
Yes.
And
yes,
so
which is everything we've been saying. Yeah.
So then it makes you wonder, what is really the justification for bypassing these? Because he denounced the fact that you should not be carting away the profits or spending whatever you have elsewhere outside of Tobago, because it does not build the Tobago economy.
Correct.
So I am dumbfounded. I am speechless. I want to know. I would love to have a sit down with him to find out what has happened to the Trevor that spoke then and the Trevor that is we're going to see in
yeah,
the next clip.
Let's hear the Trevor, the present Trevor, not the past Trevor. Mr. Director, let's run the nowadays Trevor.
That all these contracts would have been given to Trinidad contractors over Tobago contractors.
It matters not, Julian. However, at the division, you see, the Chief Secretary presented the audit, but at the division, the information on the projects were available, and it was clear to us that there might be a position in the future when these contracts were audited, and we are not going to complicate matters by offering selective tendering to contractors who are being audited, so that you would find, when I use the parks example, in an open tender, anybody can tender, and the assessment will be based on the project criteria. But in a strategic manner, as an assembly, we need to demonstrate that we have an understanding of the history, and especially the recent history. And so the criteria that we've developed would determine who contractors. It doesn't matter if they're from Trinidad, Tobago, or China. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Nowadays Trevor.
So, having heard from nowadays Trevor, we see clearly a disparity. Because, folks, just to create the perspective, this is after $309 million in contracts were awarded when no contractors from Tobago, indigenous Tobago contractors, none of them were even considered for the process. So something has to be wrong between then and now.
I actually think it's two different persons.
It sounds that way.
I don't believe that the first clip we saw compared to the second clip, they look alike. But I don't think that it's the same person. It couldn't be the same person. That when you are out of office, your view is one thing, so the Tobago contractors matters. The Tobago contractors have the capacity. The Tobago contractors, you want to build the Tobago economy. You want to leave the funds and the profit in Tobago. You don't want to cart it away to another economy. But now when you're in office and you have the opportunity to build the Tobago economy, to continue to build your Tobago contractors, it doesn't matter.
It does not matter.
It matters not.
It matters not.
It matters not. And the strategic intent prior to the election was to be purposeful with issuing the contracts and making the Tobago economy better. But the strategic intent, while you are in a position of authority to do what you say you will do, is now to cart away to another economy. And it matters not whether or not Tobago contractors are successful, whether or not Tobago, so it's better to badlist the Tobago contractors. And he spoke about an audit that has not, at the time, he said in the future there will be something. So at the time there was really nothing, there was just speculation and assumptions, but there was no basis of fact, there was no evidence upon which you are drawing a conclusion.
And also you have to remember as well, you're speaking, even with respect to the audit, you're speaking to a handful of contractors, right? Tobago, there's more than 4 or 5 contractors in the space. So what happened to the other contractors? Even if you said not those,
they are questionable.
What about the others?
What about the others?
You understand? So,
and what makes the persons who are now chosen for selective tendering superior to those contractors in the Tobago economy?
And especially when you put it into context that when you look at the successful contractors, One, they are not registered, and this is something we have.
So they're not pre-qualified. So how did they end up in this selective tendering process?
How did they end up in this strategic selective context?
We'll get to that point. Because we need explanation.
No, but the other thing I want to pay close attention to is that, is it that the contractors are being audited, or is it the works that the contractors did that is being audited? That's a big differential
question.
Exactly.
Because if my work is being audited, why does that prevent me from receiving other contracts? If you're checking into works that I did in the past, right? And you may see, and the reason for it is the cost may be inflated and all of that. You are now the present administration, which has come into office on the premise of being more transparent and accountable. So it is your responsibility now. If you have a contractor who has the capacity to do the work in Tobago, it is now your responsibility to make sure that the works that the contractor is doing is up to par. So you don't blacklist me for works that you are suspicious of, right? But allow me to take part in the process of tendering for the work.
Correct.
And if I am successful, make sure and manage. If you have an issue with what I have done in the past, it is your responsibility to manage me now. But you have carte blanche just blacklisted me and said there are questions over your work. You have no proof of the questions over my work, and I can't get any additional work. But you owe me money.
The questions surrounding either the works or the contractors can now be deemed null and void. Because if you are saying the reason why I am blacklisted is because there may have been some inflation in cost. Yes? And based on the preliminary report that was laid in the House, they would have quoted some figures, whether it be 1,400, 1,700, whatever. You are now in a situation where contractors were blacklisted for one inflated cost, and you have now twice the cost of these contractors from Trinidad, not in the Tobago local. I don't understand how you can still have that as a strategic decision being made why you decided to select those contractors over the ones that you deem blacklisted.
So guys, and I know that all of us here have religious persuasion, and most of Tobago, because Tobago has been deemed a religious society a long time ago. The Bible says that the anointing runs from the head of Aaron down to his beard, onto the breastplate, and so we're going to have a clear understanding as to why Trevor, as a secretary, says what he did before and then said what he said after. I'll ask the director to run the third clip for me, please.
And let me tell you why I will hold all of them accountable. When you go to section 37(1) of the THA Act, it says where a secretary is assigned responsibility for a division of the assembly, he shall exercise general direction and control over that division. And I can replace he with she. In other words, wherever a secretary is responsible for a division, she has general direction and control over that division. I want to tell you quite clearly that public servants are not the ones who decide how to spend your money. That happens from members of the Executive Council. Public servants do not determine when checks are paid to contractors. And by the way, contractors are calling and complaining that they are not being paid for works done. And I want to assure you contractors that when PDP gets into office, we will honor contracts that you have with the THA, and we will pay you for the jobs that you have done, that you have dutifully done, even if we do not agree with the way those contracts were given out. You have done the jobs, we will pay you for the jobs that you have done.
I'm glad that that clip ended with, you've done the jobs. We will pay you for the jobs that you have done. And prior to that, even if we do not agree. So this was before Farley. So before we hear after Farley, any comments, ladies and gentlemen?
It's different people. It's not the same persons.
No.
Could never be the same persons.
But my thing is always one of trust. How could you trust somebody that would be so blatant with a commitment and then it was clear?
Yeah.
You gave an clear commitment, a clear undertaking to somebody that you have nothing to worry about. You as a contractor, you've been calling us, complaining you're not being paid. We will honor all contracts, all works that you have done.
Yeah.
Even if we don't agree with the way it was given out, that would not be an issue. And what we got instead is a commitment that we would pay by June 24th. And once that commitment was broken, then there was an all-out attack on the contractors now to say that we don't agree with how these works were given out, so we're not going to pay.
But you know, what's challenging for me is two things that then then era representative said is that he is going to hold and he's quoted the teacher. He's holding the secretaries responsible. So then has that shifted? Is the Secretary of Infrastructure not responsible now? And then on top of that, the thing about paying the contractors is so critical because you've gone into new debt.
Yes.
And you have old debt that is still outstanding. And you know what is unfortunate is that if you had gone into new debt with your old contractors, fine. Fine but not fine. The contractors could have said, okay, fine, you owe us money, we're still getting work. But you've refused to pay me what I worked for. And you are now giving works that I have the ability to do to someone else. And at a higher cost. And you have not even involved me in the process by which I could have a fair chance at winning a contract.
And the other thing is someone else. I am here building your economy. I'm here employing workers. I'm here buying materials from your hardware. I am spending in your supermarket. Those persons I hire are buying groceries and all that. Yet you bypass me and you're bringing persons into the space that are also importing their employees. They are also importing their own equipment.
Correct.
They are also importing their own materials.
Because you see, the challenge with that is whenever you bring a contractor from Trinidad, your cost is going to be more. Because mobilization alone from Trinidad is going to be a considerable cost.
Exactly.
And I'm going to make it clear again, and I said it even in my budget contribution. I have no issue with a Trinidad contractor getting a work. I don't. It's Trinidad and Tobago. But my issue, and the minority leader addressed it, my issue is when you have contractors and the secretary agreed that the contractors in Tobago have the capacity, you know. When you have contractors in Tobago who have the capacity and you refuse to give them the work, what happened?
So look at who has gotten the nod for the selective tendering and subsequently selected. One, you have a roofing company who, based on the information, 2 years old. So their specialty is roofing. Based on the comments of the previous candidate, when he was a candidate for Scarborough Mount Grace, He said the Tobago contractors have over 20 years. So
Experience.
you're comparing 20 years experience in roadworks and resurfacing
versus none in roadworks.
versus none in roadworks and specialty in roofing. Then you have another company who is a Stocko construction company. Yeah? Who that is not roadworks or road resurfacing. So how do you compare in terms of experience, ability? And if you also want to say that they are doing financing of the projects, build, design, finance, the Tobago contractors did that as well.
Correct.
So then what is the criteria with which you chose these contractors versus your Tobago contractors?
And the chief secretary misled the public.
Correct.
When he opened that quote-unquote connector road and said that no money came from the THA coffers. Come on, we're not daft.
Yes.
We're not daft.
And then under the guise of an emergency.
Yes, the arrangement is the contractor finances, designs, build the project. But the reality is, whether it is 18 months, a year, whether it's 3 years, whether it's 4 years down the road, the THS still has to pay the bill. So when you mislead the public by saying it didn't come out of the THA coffers, so then okay, well, we want to thank Stocko, California, Stocko, whoever did the road for building the road free. So we okay with that. If we're not paying for it, that's fine. But if you have a contract that says you pay me a percentage 18 months in and another percentage after that, then it means. And I would love for the secretary to bring the details of that connector road and prove to Tobago that that road cost $19 million to build. Because in my limited experience in the field, that road, even if we take out the 34% that we said the Trinidad contractors, let's take out the 34% that the Trinidad contractors are charging more than the local contractor. You take out 34% from 19 million, Madam Finance Guru?
Over 6 million.
Over $6 million. So just minus 6 million from the 19 already. Where we at? 15 or something?
Yeah.
Right?
17.
17 million?
Yeah.
No, 12.
13.
Come on, man. I was
12.
going
We took out 6. How much we take out?
6
million
from 19. Right,
13 million.
13 and we just doing basic math. We are 13 million. So let's work the math. I want to see detail for detail what that connector road costs. I think they owe it to Tobago to be transparent. Show us.
And what would be nice, and if he's really fair, because that same auditor that he has, that he said is auditing those roads and coming up with the various variations, perhaps let him audit and let us have a comparison to see whether the audit findings are consistent, whether the audit findings would say we've audited this road and the very $19 million in cost is exactly what it costs. I challenge the Chief Secretary, let us bring your so-called independent auditor on this project and let's compare apples with apples, oranges with oranges, and let us see the consistency of the findings and let that be the judge. So we'll know whether what you were saying in the past inflated costs as opposed to value for money.
Exactly.
Let us use this road as a barometer, as one way and a comparator. Let us see if what you gave Tobago is what you promised, because I've heard other persons as well said when they drive that road, a layman experience is about 100 meters in paving.
But gentlemen,
and they cannot fathom how such a road could cost $19 million with one little bridge to cross over.
Well, we would have
no, but remember when we saw the letter of award. So what is costing 19 million? The letter of award, the caption says, is it Montmary? Montmary to
Dutch Fort.
Yes? Where the road was currently constructed, is that Montmary to Dutch Fort?
That's Smithfield.
But we're going to hear in another clip that come up.
So what was the award for $19 million?
What is the scope of works?
Well, it said Mount
What
Mary.
was the scope? So is it that we are paying $19 million for works outside of less than what was scoped?
Yeah.
What's the measure? We can't get into all the technical stuff. What's the measurement of the road? If you get the correct measurement of the road, length and width, then you will go to square footage by width, and you'll find out how costly it is.
Another interesting thing was when you looked at one of the findings and the concerns the Chief Secretary had and indicated that the auditors themselves question is the design and that kind of thing. That the works were being done without any preliminary designs and that kind of thing. But when you look at the approach of that said road, it goes contrary to those very same principles, because it appeared as you looked at what was going on. Even today, we went back and you saw them doing works by the way. They were now paving out part of Smithfield. And I went up, there was a road that was supposed to connect Smithfield onto Sangster's Hill, because that was something I would have advocated for from the past administration. So I saw part of the road pitch, so I got very happy thinking that they would have continued that plan, and only to recognize that they only went like a very short way up onto the roadway there, the driveway there, and it didn't carry the road anyway too far. So that told me that in itself was a by the way, not planned kind of arrangement. So it would be very interesting. That's why I'm calling, because the Chief Secretary has promised me 2 audits now, which he has not started. He had promised an audit into the school repairs program. We're still waiting. I called for an audit into these road works, and he said he would give us that kind of audit. Still waiting. So all I'm asking the Chief Secretary for at this point, we'll put a hold on school repairs. But please, I'm begging you, for the sake of transparency and accountability, you have the auditors here still working because you have not laid the final report. Please have them just walk over to Smithfield and onto Dutch Fort and do the necessary audit procedures, and let us see what would be their finding.
I know Marlon wants to move on, but I wanted public to understand that we're not bashing the roadworks. We're not bashing, because the more access we can have in and out of Scarborough or throughout our island is beneficial to Tobago. And so we're not bashing the concept, we're not bashing the idea of more access roads in and out of Scarborough to ease congestion, ease traffic, and throughout the island to create access to additional lands in the interior of the island. But what we're saying is that you promised a level of transparency. I know there are persons who constantly keep looking back and pointing back to what the PNM did. We paid the price of that. If that is what, as a populace, you found was the issue, we paid the price of that. We out of office, and we are saying that if you held the PNM to a particular standard, then all we're asking for is to hold the present administration to the same standard. Stop pointing back at what we did. We paid for that. But all we want to see is the work being done correctly. There's transparency, there's accountability to the benefit of the island of Tobago.
And yet again, if you look at that clip, right, one of the things, because I paid attention to the Chief Secretary's presentation on that audit, he said the auditors were frowned at the fact that they weren't doing scraping and removing. And if you look at what is happening on that, it's the very same thing that the auditors frowned that they paid over. Look at the roads. There's no scraping.
No scraping.
So they're just putting asphalt onto the road, which he said the auditors had a problem with, because what they would now go and do is claim for the entire thickness, as if they had started from surface
scratch.
level.
But right? look at
but all So you understand. So I would really, if the Chief Secretary really is true to form, if in terms of committed to transparency, let us have an audit of the value of the works, and let us see what they have claimed, what they are claiming for, whether in an audit, whether it matches. And that's all we are asking. We have absolutely no problem with us trying to create new outlets, and the other issue is, while we're doing that though, what is happening to our roads? What is real? And I'm not saying the other roads, the roads that we are using right now, and I don't know if it's because of the rainfall or so, but the roads are deteriorating. There's a road right in Backlet where I passed. Just before those rainfall was one little small hole. And if you see that thing now,
water does that. Water will create
water because
because once the water gets in between the asphalt, it's going to create.
So there's road maintenance to be done. Even as you're putting focus on these new roads, we are saying we have to give some attention to our existing road network as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, it's persons sometimes look at this program and listen to when you all share stuff, and I'm inclined to ask the question, why is it that is you're talking about issues, why it is we bringing these things up, why? And I got hold of a particular clip today, and I know it's going to bring back some nostalgia to many people in terms of the PNM legacy in Tobago's governance, and I want the director to just play that clip. And this clearly outlines why this approach is taken, Mr. Director.
About a political culture. That is what we're defending Tobago from. A political culture, which of course comes from this organization, which has demonstrated that it is guilty of and capable of atrocities as had never been perpetuated on a population as under this regime. That is what we defend in Tobago for. And we're saying that we as Tobagonians have seen it. We have heard from people who have experienced it. And therefore we have a responsibility to defend ourselves from it.
Profound.
Profound statements, and you would think that this was made this morning. It sounds, because of how relevant what Mr. London is saying here. And you know, again, coming out of this, oftentimes, especially when you guys get into the house, people don't understand the challenge, and they don't understand what you all are up against. And even on this issue of the roads, there is an apparent defiance to bring the correct information into the public domain. And so I again, Kelvin, I couldn't help but to play the clip where you would have asked the question with respect to the road works. Because I think it's important for the population to understand that those things are not just ventilated here, but there is a defiance in the house even to provide clarity on the issues. So I'll ask the director to bring that clip so that we can take a look at it.
Their lack of understanding of what selected means, what award means in the procurement process. Contracts, to be specific, the division selected no one contractor for none of those projects. We have awarded contracts, but we didn't select a contractor. Just to be clear, so the member doesn't go down the wrong road. The division went through a process of selective tendering. Out of that selective tendering, selected contractors responded, and the division, based on an assessment of the responses, awarded contracts to the successful tenderer. So maybe the member wants to restate his question.
Madam Presiding Officer, since we are going along the road of technicalities, I would like to replace the word selected with awarded, and I hope that will allow you to answer the question as posed.
Minority Leader, sorry, excuse me, go again.
I withdrew the word selected, and I'm now asking for the contractors that were awarded. As the roads mentioned, Chauvin to Friendship, Dutch Fort to Mount Mary, Canaan to Pigeon Point, and Lamy Road, Argyle.
Assemblyman James.
The contractors that were awarded, Argyle to Roxborough, Bloody Bay Road. Name of the contractor, Construction Services and Supplies Limited. Value of the contract, $25,872,595.88. For the project from Dutch Fort to Scarborough RC, it was awarded to California Stockholm Limited for a sum of $19,480,000, $19,480,000, $0.61. Let me read it again. $19,481,061.06. For the contract from Milford Road to Pigeon Point and connecting through Milford Court and Bonaccord Development, contract was awarded to Innovative Roofing and Construction Solutions Limited for a sum of $781,820.
Minority Leader.
My understanding is that there is a Chauvin to Friendship that is on the table. Has that been awarded?
Assemblyman James.
Madam President, I don't know if I am answering questions based on what is written. The question was asked about roads that have been awarded. I've answered based on roads that have been awarded.
Can the Secretary indicate whether any letter of award has been awarded, is to be awarded, to a company by the name of T.N. Ramnath?
Madam Presiding Officer, this is a new question.
This I was just about to ask, is this in keeping? Is this in keeping with the roadworks? Which roadworks in particular? So that the
was very
Assemblyman
general
will be very
as it relates to roadworks and infrastructure. So we are talking about roadworks and infrastructure.
But you also listed very
And I listed about 10. He admitted that I listed about 10. So it falls within one of those 10.
Can you please state which one of the 10?
I don't have the information. I'm asking the questions.
I guess it's an open-ended question. Assemblyman James, are you so inclined to answer?
I will repeat my answer, Madam Presiding Officer. The question is, which contractors were awarded for these projects? And I've answered that question. I have no information on what the Presiding Officer is asking, on what the Minority Leader is asking.
So I'm asking whether T.N. Ramnath is one of those contractors that would have been, that has a letter of award or is to be awarded a contract at this time. Out of all these roads I mentioned, the one at Chauvin to Friendship and the others, is T.N. Ramnath part of the list of awarded contractors or selected contractors? Because I don't realize they don't like the word selected.
Words have meanings. Madam Presiding Officer, I will answer one question. If the member would list all the contractors he's interested in, from TN to Warners to Kai to whomever he wants to ask about.
Not getting anything, so.
let him ask me one question, and I can give him one answer.
So I'm specifically asking about TN Ramnath at this time.
Madam Presiding Officer, I answered that question.
This is not a debate.
Respectfully, Madam Presiding Officer.
Members, honorable members. Assemblyman James, can this answer be provided via written answer to the minority? Is the information readily available? Minority, I'm here. I'm speaking on your behalf.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam President.
Can the question be forwarded to the minority leader?
The response?
Sorry, the response?
I can give the response now. The response is no. I can write it as well. I would.
Okay.
Seeing that you're asking for me to write the answer, I would use 2 pages to write it for the minority, because I'm explaining that there is no contract that was issued.
I believe that's what he's trying to say, okay. Minority leader. There is no contract.
Continue to ask the question over and over.
Okay, we appreciate that. And as I wind up on this issue.
So members of the public have gotten the opportunity to see what is the general behavior in bringing information and answering questions in the House, that it took 7 minutes and 33 seconds to say no to that question. And another point to note, and I'll throw it out, Kelvin, you were asking about a road from Dutch Fort to Mount Mary. I heard the Secretary keep referring to a road from Dutch Fort to Scarborough RC. I know the letter of award indicated Dutch Fort to Mount Mary. So I am confused. I don't know what that indicates. I don't know what it. Petal, you are the finance person. We were just trying to work out some figures. It seems that the scope has changed from what was awarded to what is actually being done.
That's actually the same question and the same discussion we were having before this clip. What is being paid for? And the Secretary quoted 19 million from Dutch Fort to Scarborough RC, but the letter of award said from Mount Mary to
Dutch Fort.
Dutch Fort, so yes. So it was that a typographical error? Was what we unsure as to what the $19 million is for at this time? Well, the minority is.
And that makes it even more important for us to get that audit, so that we will be clear as to what was the scope, whether we are being shortchanged, because if you gave a letter of award saying Mount Mary to Dutch Fort, 19 million, and what we are seeing right now is a road Scarborough RC to Dutch Fort. So is it that the scope has changed and the figure remain the same? Correct. You know, there's a lot of questions.
And was that letter of award rescinded? And if you looked at the letter of award, the contract will be issued maybe after the contract has been ended, because it gave a maximum of 28 days to the contract to be issued. Correct. So what is the scope of the contract?
And that again shows how this Chief Secretary continues to contradict the concerns of the audit, because remember, he said in the audit, persons were awarded letter of awards but no contract. Right? And the works have been finished. Now you have a situation here. Is it that the contractor now has a contract in his hand, or is that contract still outstanding?
And what is the scope of the contract?
What is the scope
of the contract?
Based on the letter of award.
Listen, I said on one of the programs before that the actions have me speechless all the time. And people are trying to compare some major works are required, piling and all of that kind of thing. And so I'll bring this example. I saw where someone said 23 million for one bridge in Lambo. So if we see, okay, fine, $23 million for either of those bridges in Lambo. I can't remember the cost of the bridges in Lambo. But if you say $23 million for either one of those bridges, Lambo and Thompson River, and the major works that entail that, driving of piles, you're dealing with two major water courses. So if you want to compare, you're comparing apples and oranges.
Exactly.
Because 19 million to build two small bridges. I can't even find
that do require piling.
That requires no piling. That one of them was built with I-beams and deck pan. And you want to compare a major bridge across a major water course with piles that, listen, I've been in the industry long enough that $23 million for that works in over those two rivers compared to 19 million for what we've gotten. And says a whole lot. Says is more indictable.
Yeah.
That you are paying 19 million for what I would consider minor construction.
Yeah.
Versus $23 million. If that's the cost, because I can't remember the cost. $23 million for a major bridge across a major water course.
And the other thing I'm seeing in this space is that persons are amazed that you can finish a road in 19 days, which is, this road was is one of the most basic road construction works you would ever do, which is basically just preparing crush run and you had one minor bridge to do, and we have seen works have been done.
That work could have been done in-house for much cheaper. And I'm sure that the expertise that we have in the division, based on the works that the division has done in-house, because the roundabout at Hawkinskio was in-house.
Yeah.
The works at Orange Hill, the widening Orange Hill was in-house. So when we don't play in the ability of the division to do stuff in-house.
But remember, when this new administration came in, that was the commitment we got.
Yes, to do works inside.
Exactly.
And that is why they had, but the secretary even reinforced that on Monday, and they have this project planning approach to management, and everything will be done as a project. And
correct.
Guys, I mean, we can go on for hours just discussing the division of infrastructure. But before we wrap up, and we're at that time, last Thursday was the 10th sitting, and the minority brought a motion. It was the private members sitting, and so a motion was brought with respect to the appointment of the TRHA board, which still is outstanding after 10 months. We're into 10 months now. Excuse me? 11 months. Thanks for the correction. It's outstanding. We're in 11 months now, and this is a very critical board for a very critical division. However, this motion was voted against and not agreed to by the House. And I mean, whenever I hear issues of necessary motions or necessary bills and legislature being voted against, the one thing that comes to mind is the UNC's style of leadership or the style of opposition, because they have a track record for voting against things that they say are necessary.
Yeah.
And when it's time for them to support it, you always see them pulling away. And now we're seeing this administration, who prior would have agreed that a board for TRHA is necessary in order to assist in the management of the Tobago Regional Health Authority. And now they have, for very frivolous reasons, indicated that they're not supporting the motion.
You know what is vexing about that? Is after you've disobeyed the law for over 11 months, and the House is now asking you as the administration for us to, with a sense of urgency, treat with this matter. And you have not just disobeyed the law, but I was able to show that it was not just one of dereliction of duty, but it was also an illegal operation that we are now governing over. Because what you have is that the law is clear as to who is responsible for the management of the Tobago Regional Health Authority, and that management resides with the board of directors, to which we do not currently have. And when you have a situation where the secretary is saying that when the CEO meets his limit, then an administrator signs, and then a chief administrator signs when the administrator meets a limit, that is an illegal operation, contrary to all the public service regulations. In fact, the TRHA is an institution independent of the Tobago House of Assembly. And so therefore no administrator or chief administrator can sign on behalf of the TRHA. That's why it's created by an act of parliament. That's why there's a CEO. It also goes further, that no secretary can appoint a substantive CEO. So even the appointment of the CEO based on the advice I've received is illegal. And therefore every action of this current Tobago Regional Health Authority is in fact null, void, and of no effect. And this is the seriousness of this, the operations of the TRHA, and the secretary is there, who is now the deputy chief secretary, is behaving like this is no big deal.
But you see, I go right back to a couple episodes ago. I'm going to ask the question: if it was a PNM administration that was operating this way, I want to ask the persons who are blasting us for bringing these things to the public. If it was the PNM that was doing that, I am almost positive that there would be no silence from these people. There would be there'll be such an uproar.
But the other thing is too, Lawrence, and what we have to appreciate, and what people is not appreciating, is the value of the PNM, whether in office or out of office. You can't fault us for not having a very alert minority in the past.
Exactly.
If they failed, that is their responsibility. And if they didn't do it well, that is not on us. But now that we are the persons who are the gatekeepers of the public purse, and there to ensure that we keep an eye on this administration, we will ensure that we will do it to the best of our ability and make sure that they account. And you cannot be mad at us for looking after your own business. We are looking out for your interest, because every cent not well spent, every action not properly undertaken, it is a cost to you in the long run. Because I can
it's our taxpayers.
If someone chooses to carry this CEO, the action of the CEO, take it to the court, whether an employee was terminated, whether someone who was improperly hired, whether it was contractors or suppliers believing that they procured services and the CEO didn't sign off. What of the seal? Only the board of directors can in fact authorize the use of the TRHA seal. That is what the stamp that you use to affix a contract.
Correct.
And is it that the THA is no, at this point, the TRHA is not engaging in any new contracts?
What is troubling is the flippant way that this was treated in the House. So even if, in your opinion, you would have taken steps to remedy the situation some 10 months later, you could have amended the motion to say such. But what you did was to vote against a legal act. So what you are saying is that I am prepared to
continue to operate illegally,
to disobey the law. And
Yeah.
our position is, if this is your stance, that you blatantly have no regard for the law, you are the persons, you are the group of people that are governing, that are in charge of our island resources. What do you expect, or what do you think What example are you setting for the normal man so that I could just go and break the law and there's no consequence for such?
And
the thing about it is, the Regional Health Authority Act sets out how the TRHA should operate.
Clearly.
And there are subsidiary legislation, whether it be for procurement of goods or services, dealing with employee matters. It sets out how these things should be addressed, and nowhere there does it have a role for the secretary, the secretary of health, the administrator. Nobody. It speaks to the board. The board shall. The board shall. And the act specifically says that the Regional Health Authority shall be managed by a board of directors.
Definitely.
And for folks who may think that this issue came up on Thursday as a question, I just want the director to run one final clip, because there's so much more we have to discuss, but we're out of time. I want the director to just run one final clip that I would have sent to him, and then we'll come back and wind up.
As it relates to decisions that currently require the approval of the board of directors of the TRHA, can the secretary indicate what process is currently being used for those approvals?
Certainly. As you recognize, there is now a CEO of the TRHA that has a spending limit. When the spending limit is reached, the administrator of the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection is able to sign off. If that spending limit is reached, the chief administrator is able to sign off.
And they said that the board was in January. It was installed in January.
Yes, folks. So we would have just heard a clip where the secretary would have indicated that in a few weeks, a couple, and for those of us who may not be as versed in English, a couple means 2. A couple weeks the board would have been installed. Now, just for the benefit of our viewers and our listeners, this was on the 6th of May. So on the 6th of May, the secretary agreed that it was necessary for a board to be installed.
Mr. Moderator, I want us to move away from necessary. It is the law for a board to be installed. It is mandatory for a board to be installed. The TRHA cannot just function without a board.
And you know, one of the vexing things as well that we continue to have, and I wonder, is this broken record about coming to compare with the past administrations of the PNM. The PNM, they do it so and this and. But we are saying, if the people voted resoundingly to remove the PNM, you cannot now come and say that
no, we do it so.
Compare. Because it means that persons are saying we want things to be done differently, want it to be done better. And you cannot come and do it worse. You gave a commitment, and the point is you took an oath to uphold the Constitution and the law. And the law and the Constitution in this instance is clear.
And it is not on your side.
It is not for you. It is not for you to believe that you have to find the right people, and if it takes you 2 years, then so be it. The law says that the Tobago Regional Health Authority must be managed by a board of directors.
There's no discretion.
There's no
and it
discretion.
Doesn't, and even in terms of the debate, when you listen to the comments of the secretary, so the secretary comes and in her response to the motion, she says that the TRHA has been without a board for some 7 times, and cumulatively it adds up to 3 years. And whether or not it was illegal at that time. It is illegal. It was your responsibility to raise it and to raise that there was an issue. Added to which, the periods that she would have outlined, in some instances there were 2 months, 3 months. So you would see that it was not an extended period of close to 1 year. Another reason she would have, in her debate, she indicated that the board would have made some decisions. In her opinion, they were questionable. That's not a reason why you should not appoint a board. You are to hold the board accountable. You are to set the policy and the strategic direction for the board. Exactly. The framework under which the regional health authorities were established is one where there's a separation of role and responsibility. So you want to separate the service provider from the financier. Yes. In this instance, the service provider is the Tobago Regional Health Authority. The financier is the Tobago House of Assembly. Yeah. If you want to have this separation based on the whatever reform that the health sector was undergoing at that time, when you have the CEO reporting to the secretary, how is there a separation of roles and responsibility?
Who manages the CEO in this arrangement? And we even had this situation where she was saying, well, she needed to get all the right persons. So in a place like Tobago, 60,000, you tell me you can't find 7 to 9 persons in a couple months. I had to even tell her the longest period that the THA would have went was a period when you had the Ministry of Tobago Development making recommendations to the cabinet, and you had the THA also making recommendations. So you had that situation had to play out itself legally as to who really has the authority and so forth. And in that situation, every time the PNM understood their role and the separation of powers, and that is why you would have had persons acting and not being appointed, because they understood it's only the board can appoint.
Yes. Exactly. Yes.
But you have a situation in this instance where we saw in around February or so a CEO being appointed, and you have to ask yourself,
who appointed the
CEO?
There is no role for the division and the secretary in the appointment of the CEO.
None.
Because as the law states it clear,
it's clear.
Who's responsible?
Guys, we're not out of words, nor are we out of content.
We're out of time.
But we are out of time. This has been a very sobering program, and it seems as if next Tuesday's program will definitely be a continuation of the sellout of the greatest little island on the planet. I want to thank our viewers as well for sticking it out. I know we've started a bit late, and we attempted to compensate viewers for that late start in terms of providing information. So I want to thank our viewers for actually sticking it out. Very good viewership throughout the entire program. I want to just open the floor for very short closing remarks, and then we will be off for the night. Guys?
Yeah, I want to say that we are committed. We're committed to the development of Tobago. We're committed to doing what is right for Tobago. And we have proven that we are for the development of Tobago. We are presently in the minority in Tobago, and our role and function is to continue to advocate for the development of Tobago in the right way. And that is what we intend to do.
I also want to encourage this administration to be law-abiding. Abide by the laws and regulations of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. The TRHA and the non-appointment of the board is just one example. We would have seen where the EMA would have also expressed issues with infrastructure works happening on the island. And there are several other examples where it appears as if this administration is not in keeping, is doing things not in keeping with the law. So we want to encourage you, please do what is right. You promised to fix it. There is a level of high expectation coming into office that you will right the wrongs of the past administration. Do what is right. Fix it. Abide by the law.
Well, after those two sentiments, there's not much left to be said, but one I really want to also commend, the stakeholders, even despite the challenges for this carnival, it's clear that there's a lot of potential. From very early, I said I think the move to have Tobago having its own carnival was a good one. It is one that would naturally attract people, and we saw a number of persons coming to Island. The experience on the days, the Juve and the Carnival itself seemed to be one that was well received, and means now what we have to do is listen to our stakeholders, listen to the man on the ground, because there are too many ordinary Tobagonians who are crying out and saying, I have an interest, but I'm not benefiting. And it seemed like this administration, before when they came in, they were dealing with bread and butter people and bread and butter issues, but what you're getting from them is that they've moved to knife and fork, and it's only the people who, you know, with shine plates they are listening to now. So the bread and butter people are being ignored. No,
it's serious. It's
look,
serious.
and I would be remiss of me, I'll be failing, and Mr. Producer, I really need 2 minutes to talk to URP people messaging me, CPEP messaging me, Daily Page. They're saying they're seeing $17.5 million being spent. They're seeing stage out in the sea. And they can't get the pay salaries up to this today. It is tough, people. It is tough. Persons calling me, crying, and I can't help because I myself struggling. But it is tough, and this administration have to get back to to what they promised to Begonians. Because so far, you may feel that, yes, you're doing fetes and festivities and you're getting a little traction, but people on the ground, they are feeling the pain. They're feeling it. And it's time that you all focus on the people, focus on bread and butter, and leave the knife and fork and the flying and the gallivanting. Focus on the people.
Very well said. Yep. Folks, we've come to the end of our program this evening. And again, let me thank you all for sticking it out with us to the end. And the information that has been passed on this evening, I want you all to not just share the live, but spread the word. Spread the word. Let us become more aware of what is taking place in the island. And I thank you for being a part of the Minority Report. I'm Marlon David, and I want to say have a wonderful night and continue to have a blessed week. Have a blessed night.